Sony, we really need to have a chat about this. While I get that the stand might be made of high-quality materials, the fact that it's not included in the box and costs $29.99 is a bit much. I mean, it's just a stand, right? But here's where it gets interesting. I've been browsing through Amazon and found some incredible alternatives that offer way more value for your money. Take a look at this one for $41. Not only do you get a stand, but it also comes with built-in fans, USB ports, and even charging stations for your controllers. Customers are raving about it. They love the fan for cooling the PS5, the top-notch quality, and how it integrates seamlessly with the PS5's design. Plus, it has this cool color breathing mode that cycles through different colors, adding a bit of flair to your setup. And most importantly, the charging function works great. Now compare this to Sony's official stand. Why would anyone choose the latter? The third-party stand not only supports your console but enhances its functionality and aesthetics, all at a price point that's just a bit more than Sony's simple stand. So what do you think? Is Sony missing the mark here by not including the stand in the box, or by pricing it a bit too high? Would you go for these feature-packed third-party options instead? Next, I want to talk about Sony's PS5 promises versus reality, the 4K 60 FPS debate. Firstly, the big question: can the PS5 really deliver games at 4K resolution with 60 FPS and ray tracing on? It turns out this isn't entirely straightforward. The reality is, to enjoy native 4K with ray tracing, you're more likely to be playing at 30 FPS. Now, if you've ever experienced the smoothness of 60 FPS, you'll know it's hard to go back to anything less. The compromise: most games run between 1440p and 1080p to hit that silky 60 FPS with ray tracing. But there's more. Let's talk about PS4 games that haven't been updated for the PS5. Take Bloodborne, for example. It still runs at 30 FPS in its PS4 version. Interestingly, modders have managed to create a patch for 60 FPS gameplay, but it requires jailbreaking your PS5, and it reduces the game's internal resolution to achieve this frame rate. It's puzzling, especially when Sony advertises features like 8K and 4K 60 FPS ray tracing. Why are we then playing some games at 1080p? And then there's Red Dead Redemption 2. A true masterpiece from Rockstar, yet capped at 30 FPS. It's baffling why neither Sony nor Rockstar have released an update to improve this. Mid-range PCs can run RDR2 at very high settings, surpassing 60 FPS. So what's holding back the PS5? Lastly, the scarcity of true next-gen games this generation is noticeable, with many being cross-gen titles. Given this, it seems only reasonable that Sony could ensure all PS4 games are upscaled to at least boost FPS to 60. Yet, here we are 3 years into the life cycle and still waiting. So what do you think about Sony's PS5 performance? Is it living up to your expectations? So what can Sony do to address these issues? Here's my 2 cents. 1. Encourage and support developers in optimizing their games to run at 4K with ray tracing enabled, without significant performance drops. 2. Continue to enhance backward compatibility for PS4 games, ensuring they run smoother and with improved graphics on the PS5. 3. Work closely with developers to ensure that cross-generation games are significantly enhanced on the PS5, rather than just offering minor improvements. 4. Actively seek and incorporate feedback from the PlayStation community to understand their needs and preferences. And most importantly, be transparent about upcoming features, updates, and enhancements, setting realistic expectations for users. Coming up, I want to discuss a topic that's becoming increasingly important in the gaming world: the pitfalls of digital game ownership. For over 5 years, I've predominantly purchased games digitally, but now I'm starting to question that decision. Firstly, when you buy a game digitally, there's no option to sell or trade it later. Unlike physical copies, which you can pass on or sell, digital games are permanently tied to your account. This lack of flexibility is a significant downside for gamers who value the ability to recoup some of their investment. But there's a bigger issue at hand. More and more, we're seeing reports of digital games being pulled from stores or losing support. Ubisoft is a notable example, but they're not alone in this. As games and their online services age, companies often pull the plug, leaving digital owners in the lurch. A case in point is Sony's recent actions, which have brought the fragility of digital ownership into sharp focus. Just last month, Sony announced that due to licensing issues, users would lose access to purchase Discovery content by the end of the year. This incident isn't just about losing a streaming service, it's about consumers losing access to content they paid for, expecting to own it indefinitely. Moreover, a recent situation where many PlayStation Network users were unexpectedly banned highlights another risk. These bans not only prevented multiplayer gaming and cloud streaming, but also blocked access to digitally purchased games. Although Sony restored access later, the incident was a stark reminder of how digital libraries can be rendered inaccessible overnight, through no fault of the user. So given these recent developments, I've started to shift back to buying physical copies of games. Yes, it can be a bit of a hassle to switch out the Spider-Man 2 disc for God of War Ragnarok, but there's something reassuring about holding the physical disc in your hand. It gives a tangible sense of ownership that digital games just can't match. Owning a physical copy feels more secure, knowing that no matter what happens in the digital marketplace, these discs are mine to keep. It's a personal choice, but in this era where digital ownership seems more fragile than ever, going physical might just be the safer bet. What about you? Are you reconsidering your digital purchases? Do you see the value in physical copies, or do the benefits of digital still outweigh the risks for you? Let's discuss this in the comments. After everything I've discussed in this video, you might be wondering, do I dislike Sony? Am I not happy with my new PS5 Slim? Let's set the record straight. I absolutely love it. Take the DualSense controller, for example. It's a piece of high-tech art. The subtle vibrations, the responsive pressure on the triggers, and the immersive sounds, sometimes so nuanced you don't even consciously notice them, all contribute to an unparalleled level of immersion. The smoothness of the PS5's UI is another big plus. There's a lot to appreciate about the new PS5 model. But it's important to highlight some concerns. No matter how big of a fan you are, there are major issues that need addressing. My feeling is that Sony, seemingly comfortable in its lead in the console war, outselling Xbox 3-1, might be getting a bit too complacent and somewhat less consumer-friendly. What we need is healthy competition. We need Microsoft to step up its game with outstanding titles and pro-consumer features, which could encourage Sony to reassess its strategies and focus more on consumer satisfaction. And hey, it's 2024 and the PS5 Pro is on the horizon. But before we get into that, let's talk about optimizing the original PS5 hardware. I believe there's untapped potential there that Sony could harness to enhance our gaming experiences further. Thanks for tuning in. This is Ashley signing out. There might be a need to tweak or balance it. Removing or nerfing the wind tunnels could be a consideration, ensuring they don't overshadow the classic web swinging that is central to Spider-Man's character. Next up, we got the combat system. I am happy to say that the combat mechanics are an intricate dance of action and strategy, demanding more than just reflexive button mashing. Its essence lies in utilizing a diverse array of moves and tactics, with a heightened difficulty level that pushes you towards an optimized playstyle, transforming each fight into a visually spectacular display. The combat mechanics shine with their precision and fluidity, allowing Spider-Man to mirror your thoughts in real time. This responsiveness results in dynamic on-the-fly encounters where managing threats, prioritizing targets, and executing well-timed maneuvers become crucial. The environmental interaction in combat adds another layer of realism and satisfaction, as you creatively use the surroundings to your advantage, making each encounter feel like a scene from a Marvel movie. The distinction between Miles and Peter's combat styles adds a subtle variety to gameplay. Miles brings his unique electrical powers and stealth to the table, while Peter's approach is more rooted in his symbiotic and technological enhancements.